all. This is Abhishek Mehrotra, Head of Investment Products with HDFC Securities. And we are very happy to host Mr. Manish Gunwani. Mr. Manish Gunwani is CIO with Bandhan Asset Management Company. He is with Bandhan since January 2023, and prior to this, he was CIO with the Nippon India Mutual Funds. Well, he has almost nearly 3 decades of experience in managing equities, and I think this is not no better time than to call him for helping our investors understand what's happening in the market. Though December has been so far, I'll say a little dazzling, but
Yeah.
compared to when we see October and November. So, Manisha, we just wanted to know what has changed overall and how you are seeing equities. I know the topic is beyond this, but that's the first thing which any investor want to know uh, as soon as he looks at the markets, and especially the FI number, which is now everybody's
Yeah.
tracking so closely.
No, I know. I think last 2, 3 months, FIs have created a fair amount of volatility in the market.
Right.
But honestly, I do think that we will go through a period of consolidation over next 3 to 6 months.
Right.
There are material risks, especially on the global side. We all know that the new regime in US, Mr. Trump's policies uh, are probably going to be very disturbing to the economic order which is there, because that's what he has proclaimed. And if there is a follow through on what he had talked about, which is like massive tariffs on China, Mexico, Canada, or removal of undocumented migrant from US, which will create inflation, then we should be ready to face some volatility. So my view is this, that if you take 3, 4 big things, one is this whole um, global disorder which can happen because of Mr. Trump's policies. Second, let's be honest that over last 3, 5 years we made a lot of money in equities. The valuations, obviously, as a function of that, are high, right? So the expectations of earnings growth is high. Third is that we are entering into a bit of a cyclical slowdown in the domestic economy. Now, as of now, the base case seems to be that it is transitory because of weather and Shraddh and government spending being delayed and all that. But there is some uncertainty around corporate earning growth also. And the fourth final point is there is a lot of supply. So if you see the pipeline of IPOs and QIPs, there is a lot of supply. So even though we all, I think, agree that domestic flows are typically going to be quite strong, and financialization is a very long-term trend, and people are moving from physical assets to financial assets like mutual fund. But even if inflows are strong, let's say 35, 40,000 crores per month, the thing is there is supply also. So I think risk reward is evenly balanced. I don't expect any big correction, but I do think that because of these 3, 4 factors, we should be ready for going through a process of consolidation.
Got it. Got it. Well, you summed it well. I think the core topic is very, very close, and I think everybody who is on this call would have touched through it in a different aspects. I remember, as in when I was a kid, whenever I was traveling, my parents used to give me 2 or 3 sorts of money. That this you keep in the pocket, this you keep somewhere else in your suitcase, and this is a held away money which is in case of emergency that can be used. That is what asset allocation, how it was taught to us when we were kids. And nothing more than asset allocation is the need of the hour, which is clearly coming out what you are saying also. So can you, sir, spend some more time on asset allocation, and we want our investors to understand how important it is and how one can really make money through asset allocation, or make money, or make preserve also money. So that's more important.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So I'll just make a small presentation, but before that, just to summarize, I think a lot of studies have shown that asset allocation is actually more important than what you own in that asset. So I
Right.
think it's all about the boring things like discipline and being very, monitoring things well, and not trying not to be caught with the herd, because it's so easy to buy what is being talked about in newspapers or by friends and other people. So that's the whole summary in one sense, but let me just share the presentation on sec.
Yeah. Even you can move a camera also a little forward, I think, because we cannot see your
Uh,
face.
yeah, sorry,
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah, that's it.
Uh, is this visible?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, so this is basically a presentation in two parts. One is to see how India is currently positioned and what are the fundamental tenets of asset allocation, and maybe two or three trends where we feel why the asset allocation should change a bit going forward. So just going and seeing what has happened now, if you take a long-term view of what are the returns, जो different asset classes के क्या return है, मतलब most people unfortunately in India are invested more in real estate and gold. Gold actually has done okay, but the best asset class, maybe we are biased, but this is data. There's no bias here.
Definitely.
Simply put, equities is by far the best asset class. Now, if we see कि Indians, where are they invested? Actually, the best asset class is actually at the bottom. तो ये थोड़ा रफ एस्टिमेट है. Obviously रियल एस्टेट इज डिफिकल्ट टू फिगर आउट कि एग्जैक्ट वैल्यू ऑफ रियल एस्टेट हेल्ड बाय हाउस होल्ड कितना है,
Right.
बट मोटा मोटी दिस इज द एग्रीगेट होल्डिंग इंडियन हाउस होल्ड्स का बैलेंस शीट है, ये एसेट साइड बैलेंस शीट है इन वन सेंस.
True.
तो क्लियरली हम लोग जो फिनेंशियलाइजेशन की बात करते हैं, इन अ वे देखिए इक्विटीज में हुआ है फिनेंशियलाइजेशन, बट व्हेन यू सी अ इकोनॉमी जिसमें रियल एस्टेट और गोल्ड अभी भी बाय फार आर द बिगेस्ट होल्डिंग्स, then we should really think that the amount of financialization जो हम बात करते हैं अभी बहुत लंबा रास्ता है, मतलब द रोड मैप इज स्टिल वेरी वेरी लॉन्ग इन टर्म्स ऑफ बैंक डिपॉजिट्स एक्चुअली आर वेरी वेरी लो आई थिंक वर्सेस रियल एस्टेट एंड गोल्ड. एंड एज आई सेड अभी भी जो एसेट क्लास ने बेस्ट रिटर्न दिया है 16% वर्सेस अदर्स आर ब्रॉडली 8 to 10%, वो एसेट क्लास में मिनिमम इन्वेस्टमेंट है एक्चुअली. अदर थिंग इज liquidity, taxation और convenience, apart from returns, they are also important. और वो सब पैरामीटर्स में एक्चुअली आई थिंक इक्विटीज डज बेटर. तो जैसे रियल एस्टेट में आपको एक लिक्विडिटी चाहिए तो आपको पूरा प्रॉपर्टी बेचना पड़ता है, इवन दो यू may नीड ओनली अ स्मॉल पार्ट ऑफ इट. Similarly, gold is difficult to store. So when you see all these factors की taxation benefit है, convenience benefit है और liquidity benefit है, और return भी सबसे ज़्यादा high है, then you when you see this table की Indian households का investment क्या आ रहा है, तो clearly I think case for both actually bank deposits also I think are less and equities are less versus real estate and gold. ये थोड़ा कॉम्प्लिकेटेड ग्राफ लगता है, बट सिंपली पुट काफी लोग ये पूछते हैं कि लॉन्ग टर्म इक्विटी रिटर्न्स क्या होगा, और काफी लोग फिर ना जीडीपी ग्रोथ से या कोई इकोनॉमिक पैरामीटर से कोरिलेट करते हैं. बट आप एक्चुअली देखेंगे कि चाहे डेवलप्ड कंट्री हो या इमर्जिंग कंट्री हो, वन एम्पिरिकल फैक्ट, मतलब इसमें कोई थियोरी क्यों होता है ये पता नहीं लगता, बट एक एम्पिरिकल फैक्ट है कि बहुत लॉन्ग टर्म डेटा आप देखेंगे तो ऑलमोस्ट एवरी कंट्री में इक्विटी रिटर्न इज अबाउट 5-6% अबव इन्फ्लेशन। तो हम जो रियल रिटर्न बोलते हैं, रियल रिटर्न इज जो नॉर्मल नॉमिनल रिटर्न है वो माइनस इन्फ्लेशन। तो आप यूएस देखिए या जापान देखिए तो लॉन्ग टर्म रिटर्न 5-6% पे ही कन्वर्ज करता है। और इंडिया में भी आप देखेंगे कि सिंपली पुट, लेट्स से लास्ट 30 years में सेंसेक्स और निफ्टी वुड हैव गिवन अबाउट 13-14%, एंड इंडिया का एवरेज इन्फ्लेशन 6-7% होगा। तो इंडिया का भी वो 6% रूल पे ही आता है कि लॉन्ग टर्म इक्विटी रिटर्न इन्फ्लेशन प्लस 6% है। तो रादर देन कोरिलेटिंग टू जीडीपी ग्रोथ, जैसे जापान में तो ऑब्वियसली जीडीपी ग्रोथ कुछ खास हुआ नहीं है आफ्टर 70s and 80s, but long term somehow it seems to converge to inflation plus 6%. And this is a quite surprising thing that happens globally. Other thing is equities में I think mid and small cap होना जरूरी है, because again if you see most countries, this graph basically shows that अगर bar is on the right side उसका मतलब ये है कि mid और small caps have done better than large caps। तो मोस्ट 90% कंट्रीज में आप देखेंगे अगेन लॉन्ग टर्म डेटा, 20 साल का डेटा देखिए या 100 साल का डेटा देखिए, जो भी है मिड एंड स्मॉल कंपनीज हैव आउट परफॉर्म। तो एसेट एलोकेशन में मेरे ख्याल से स्मॉल कैप स्पेसिफिकली आई थिंक इज वेरी रिक्वायर्ड इन टू गेट द फुल रिटर्न ऑन इक्विटीज। एक और चीज जो इकोनॉमिक थ्योरी और प्रैक्टिस में लॉन्ग टर्म में फिट होती है कि अगेन ये 3-5 साल में वर्क नहीं करता है, बट अगेन 25-30 साल अगर लेंगे तो कभी ना कभी ये हो जाता है कि जो दो कंट्री का इन्फ्लेशन गैप है वो करेंसी उतना ही डिप्रिशिएट करती है, जो कंट्री का हायर इन्फ्लेशन है। जैसे इंडिया और यूएस का average 30-year gap in inflation is 4%, and depreciation has been about 3.5%. आप यूएस एंड यूके का भी देखेंगे कि यूके में इन्फ्लेशन 1% ज़्यादा रहा है, तो पाउंड हैज़ डिप्रिशिएटेड अबाउट 1% पर एनम ऑन एन एवरेज। तो ये आई थिंक इम्पोर्टेंट है, बिकॉज हम जब जैसे गोल्ड देखते हैं हम लोग, उसका रिटर्न दो पार्ट्स में आता है कि डॉलर प्राइस ऑफ गोल्ड और जो यूएसडी आईएनआर का चेंज है, मतलब जो रुपी का डिप्रिसिएशन हुआ है। तो जैसे 3.5% रिटर्न, जो 9-10% रिटर्न है गोल्ड का रुपी टर्म में, उसमें 3.5-4% एक्चुअली रुपी डिप्रिसिएशन आया है, और बाकी जो डॉलर प्राइस ऑफ गोल्ड है वो जितना ऊपर गया है। तो ये थोड़ा याद रखना ज़रूरी है। अदर, जैसे हमने थोड़ा बैक टेस्टिंग किया है डेटा में कि ये नेचुरल है कि जो एसेट क्लास अच्छा करता है एक साल, उसमें फिर लोग ज़्यादा एलोकेट करते हैं। दैट एक्चुअली इज अ बिग मिस्टेक, बिकॉज इफ यू जस्ट हैव अ डिसिप्लिन्ड अप्रोच एंड से this asset class should be this percentage, this asset class this percentage, and उसमें थोड़ा rebalancing कर लें to make sure those percentage remain intact। So जो asset class अच्छा किया है वो थोड़ा बेच के जो asset class खराब किया है वो ले लेना चाहिए। तो ये दो स्ट्रैटेजी आप कंपेयर करेंगे तो एक्चुअली ये जो इक्वल वेटेड है, जो नीचे टेबल में दिखाया गया है कि आप ब्रॉडली एक डिसिप्लिन्ड एलोकेशन रखें रादर देन चेजिंग परफॉर्मेंस, कि अगर 2020 में एक एसेट क्लास अच्छा किया तो अगर आप 2021 में वो एसेट क्लास में पैसे डालेंगे तो वो रिटर्न एक्चुअली कम होता है, बिकॉज जनरली जो बड़े एसेट क्लासेस हैं उसमें कॉन्ट्रेरियन होना बेटर है, वैल्यू होना बेटर है रादर देन मोमेंटम और रिटर्न सीकिंग चेस करेंगे तो नुकसान होगा अपना. Other is diversification always helps. Specifically what historic data से जो दिखता है कि गोल्ड और इक्विटीज में काफी नेगेटिव कोरिलेशन है. तो इफ यू मिक्स गोल्ड एंड इक्विटीज, I think you get a good balance of return and volatility. But point is, ये तीन चार एसेट क्लासेस में आई थिंक सब में होना चाहिए थोड़ा प्रोपोर्शन. और जैसे प्रीवियस स्लाइड में दिखाया कि एक डिसिप्लिन होना चाहिए कि वो प्रोपोर्शन ज़्यादा चेंज नहीं करें. तो समरी व्हेन वी सी व्हाट हैज हैपेंड हिस्टोरिकली, कि एक तो क्लियर है कि इक्विटीज हैव बीन द बेस्ट एसेट क्लास नॉट ओनली इन रिटर्न टर्म, बट जैसे मैंने कहा कि लिक्विडिटी, कन्वीनियंस, टैक्सेशन. सेकेंड बात ये है कि अभी भी इक्विटीज एक्चुअली अमंग फोर एसेट क्लासेस विच आर द बिग वंस, गोल्ड, रियल एस्टेट, बैंक एफडी और इक्विटी, उसमें इक्विटीज अभी भी मिनिमम है. In terms of return expectation, almost any major country, uh, equities has delivered long-term 6% above inflation, which is very good because usually क्या है, bonds post tax जैसे एफडी हो या bonds हो, post tax hardly beat inflation. So if something is giving you 6% above inflation with good tax treatment, I think obviously it will be a great asset class. Fourthly, small caps, especially, I think should be a good part of equity allocation. Fifth, we need discipline, be in every major asset class with certain proportion, because that will help you give a mix of return versus volatility. Uh, और हिस्टोरिकली रुपी हैज depreciated 4% बिकॉज इंडिया का इन्फ्लेशन और करंट अकाउंट डेफिसिट हाई था वर्सेस यूएस. So this is what has happened in the past. Now
Right.
I'm just going to talk about कि दो तीन जो ट्रेंड्स हैं इंपॉर्टेंट रहेंगे एसेट एलोकेशन के लिए. I'll try to be brief. Basically हमारा व्यू है ना, इसमें फ्यूचर देखना है तो ऑब्वियसली व्यू है. मतलब तो हमको लगता है कि फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल रुपी डेप्रिसिएशन विल स्लो डाउन वर्सेस यूएस डॉलर, क्योंकि इंडिया का मैक्रो एक्चुअली इम्प्रूव हुआ है और यूएस का मैक्रो थोड़ा डिटीरियोरेट हुआ है. तो जैसे तीन चार बड़े नंबर्स हैं मैक्रो में, करंट अकाउंट, इन्फ्लेशन, गवर्नमेंट डेट, फिस्कल डेफिसिट. आप देखेंगे कि जैसे करंट अकाउंट में इंडिया का एक्चुअली करंट अकाउंट ब्रॉडली जीरो की तरफ आ रहा है, क्योंकि ऑयल प्राइसेस हैव बीन सॉफ्ट, दे आर लाइकली टू रिमेन सॉफ्ट, वेयर एज अपना सर्विसेज एक्सपोर्ट्स हैज डन वेरी वेल लास्ट 4-5 years. बट आप यूएस को देखेंगे कि यूएस का करंट अकाउंट, सो करंट अकाउंट इज बेसिकली योर टोटल एक्सपोर्ट्स माइनस टोटल इंपोर्ट्स. इंडिया और यूएस अभी दोनों डेफिसिट में है, मतलब आर टोटल इंपोर्ट्स आर मोर देन आर टोटल एक्सपोर्ट्स, बट इंडिया का डेफिसिट ऑलमोस्ट जीरो की तरफ जा रहा है. यूएस का जो करंट अकाउंट डेफिसिट है वो अभी भी जीडीपी के परसेंटेज में 3 to 4% है, विच इज़ वेरी हाई. इन्फ्लेशन गैप देखेंगे तो 5-10 साल पहले इंडिया और यूएस का इन्फ्लेशन गैप 4-5% होता था, अभी 2-3% है. गवर्नमेंट डेट एक्चुअली यूएस का बहुत ऊपर गया है, मतलब 120-130% ऑफ जीडीपी, विच इज़ अ वेरी डेंजरस लेवल. यूजुअली बोलते हैं कि 100% ऑफ जीडीपी, मतलब अगर जीडीपी से ज़्यादा हो जाए गवर्नमेंट डेट, वो एक रेड फ्लैग होता है. तो यूएस में वो एक बड़ा चेंज आया है लास्ट 10-15 साल में कि डेट बहुत ज़्यादा हो गया है. और फिजिकल डेफिसिट, the problem with the US is that the fiscal deficit looks like very sticky, क्योंकि the fixed expenditure, which is healthcare, salaries, pensions, very high. Um, so when we see these kind of macro numbers, our feeling is जो 4% का depreciation trend रहा है रुपी का वर्सेस डॉलर, वो 1 or 2% हो जाएगा. मे बी जीरो नहीं होगा, क्योंकि इंडिया का इन्फ्लेशन अभी भी यूएस से ज़्यादा है थोड़ा. But when we see these numbers, you definitely feel कि the Indian currency in in the next 5-10 years going to do much better than what it has done in the last 20-30 years. और ये सब एसेट क्लासेस के लिए इम्पोर्टेंट है, क्योंकि अगर इंडिया का करेंसी बेटर करेगा तो इंडिया के वैल्यूएशन ऑफ ऑल एसेट्स, वेदर इक्विटी हो डेट हो, सब में री रेटिंग होगा कि वैल्यूएशन विल रिमेन हायर. सो ये एक इम्पोर्टेंट ट्रेंड है. सेकेंड इज, ग्लोबली हमको लगता है कि इंटरेस्ट रेट्स लो रहेंगे ब्रॉडली मोस्ट कंट्रीज में, क्योंकि अभी हर गवर्नमेंट के पास डेट ज़्यादा है. इवन इंडिया गवर्नमेंट का डेट थोड़ा ज़्यादा है, बट हम लोग 70-75% ऑफ जीडीपी पे हैं. But you see the developed countries like Japan is 200 plus, most of the other countries are 100 plus, which is a dangerous sign. So when you have such high debt and growth is unlikely to be strong, क्योंकि obviously population ही degrowth है most developed countries में, whether Europe, Japan, China, US also. If it stops immigration, the population will start degrowing. So ये जो कॉम्बिनेशन है, जैसे जापान इज द फर्स्ट कंट्री टू फेस दिस 20 years बैक, कि आपके पास एजिंग वर्कफोर्स है और डेट भी हाई है. यूजुअली तो गवर्नमेंट का रिएक्शन ये होता है कि क्योंकि आप गवर्नमेंट स्पेंडिंग नहीं कर सकते, तो आप मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी बहुत इजी रखते हो. मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी इजी मतलब आप इंटरेस्ट रेट्स लो रखते हो वर्सेस इन्फ्लेशन. तो आप अगर आप आज देखेंगे जापान में इन्फ्लेशन 2-3% है और आपको 0% इंटरेस्ट रेट है. सो बैंक में आप पैसे रखेंगे तो आपका परचेजिंग पावर प्रिजर्व नहीं होगा. और वो सिचुएशन अभी धीरे धीरे पूरी दुनिया में हो रहा है. तो अभी यूरोप, चाइना में भी ब्रॉडली you get negligible returns by keeping money in the bank. And when that happens, people will automatically move to risk asset like equity or real estate, because there you see growth. And through that growth, at least you can enhance your purchasing power, because सेविंग का ऑब्जेक्टिव ये है कि एटलीस्ट इन्फ्लेशन के ऊपर तो रिटर्न आना चाहिए. तो जब रेट्स इंटरेस्ट रेट्स इतने कम है कि इन्फ्लेशन से भी कम है, तो जो इक्विटी और रियल एस्टेट के लिए जो पैसा अवेलेबल है वो बढ़ेगा. सो लिक्विडिटी विल बी गुड, वी फील, फॉर दीज एसेट्स. एंड थर्ड, why we generally are bullish on small caps is, see, small caps, you need small caps to play change. और जो चेंज है आजकल दुनिया में वो बहुत फास्ट है. एक तो टेक्नोलॉजी से है. तो पहले जो 20-30 साल में टेक्नोलॉजी चेंज होती है, आज 1-2 साल में चेंज होती है. तो क्लियरली लॉट ऑफ द स्मॉलर कंपनीज आर एबल टू राइड दिस टेक्नोलॉजी better than big companies. Second is, 1990 to 2020 was a phase where a lot of free trade happened, a lot of outsourcing to China and Asian countries happened. बट अभी वो ट्रेंड चेंज हो गया है. तो अभी मैन्युफैक्चरिंग के लिए प्रोटेक्शनिज्म का फेज है. तो अगेन ये चेंज के लिए भी, जैसे लॉट ऑफ इंडस्ट्रीज इन इंडिया इन मैन्युफैक्चरिंग वे इग्नोर्ड, बट नाउ ओवर नेक्स्ट 5-10 years वी थिंक दैट दे विल कम बैक, बिकॉज जो इम्पोर्ट से उनका कंपटीशन था वो इम्पोर्ट अभी रुक जाएगा. थर्ड इज ऑल्सो, again 1990 to 2020 was a very peaceful time, so hardly any expenditure on defense happened apart from China. But now again we are in a cold war kind of situation where defense expenditure will go up globally. So why I'm talking about these things is, change टेक्नोलॉजी का हो, डिफेंस का हो, या फ्री ट्रेड का हो, जितना ज़्यादा चेंज है उस उसमें ज़्यादा स्मॉल कैप अपॉर्चुनिटीज मिलते हैं, क्योंकि स्मॉल कैप्स टिपिकली आर companies where you can select some which can play that change, because large caps typically are built on things that have happened in the past. So things that have worked in the past, that is why they've become large cap, because they have played to the themes which happened in the past. But when the themes change, you can play it better only through small caps. Finally, हमें जो स्वीट स्पॉट लगता है इंडिया ग्रोथ का, दैट इज द सेक्टर्स वेयर India's what we call white collar workforce is working. So whether engineer, scientist, accountants हो, जो भी हो, क्योंकि अभी दुनिया में ट्रेन्ड पीपल का शॉर्टेज है. तो इफ यू सी यूएस, यूरोप, whether it is plumbers, carpenters, doctors, nurses, the shortage of everything. And a lot of things are being sourced from China, which is not going to happen so much in future. और डिमांड, तीन तरीके के डिमांड काफी स्ट्रांग रहेंगे हमारे व्यू में. वन इज दिस होल एनर्जी जो रिन्यूएबल की तरफ जा रहा है, सस्टेनेबिलिटी की तरफ जा रहा है. सो वो जो इंडस्ट्रीज में है वहाँ डिमांड स्ट्रांग रहेगा. सेकेंड इज lot of the US and European countries, they are trying to get back manufacturing. जो रीशोरिंग बोल रहे हैं कि अम, जैसे इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल है या डिफेंस है या सेमीकंडक्टर्स हैं, जो सब आउटसोर्स किया था ताइवान को या चाइना को, दे आर ट्राइंग टू गेट इट बैक. एंड वो जो एक्सपेंडिचर होगा उसमें इंडियन सप्लायर्स कैन बेनिफिट. And third, probably the most structural story is healthcare, because अगर आपके पास एजिंग पॉपुलेशन है, आपका डेट हाई है, फिजिकल डेफिसिट हाई है, तो आपको हेल्थ केयर कॉस्ट कम करना पड़ेगा फॉर यूएस, यूके, चाइना, जापान. एंड आई थिंक लॉट ऑफ हेल्थ केयर आउटसोर्सिंग कैन हैपन टू इंडिया. तो ये जो ट्रेंड्स है हमको लगता है इम्पोर्टेंट है एसेट एलोकेशन के लिए. तो just to summarize, I think Indian currency will do better than the past. तो for example, जो गोल्ड का रिटर्न करेंसी डिप्रिसिएशन से आ रहा है वो थोड़ा कम हो जाएगा मेरे ख्याल से. सेकेंड इज फिक्स्ड इनकम या बैंक एफडी में पैसा बनाना ग्लोबली तो मुश्किल ही है अभी, और मे बी इंडिया में भी पोस्ट टैक्स इट विल बी डिफिकल्ट टू बीट इन्फ्लेशन विद दैट. थर्ड ये है कि जनरली ग्रोथ कम है, तो जो रिटर्न एक्सपेक्टेशन है वो भी थोड़ा मॉडरेट होना चाहिए. हमको लगता है कि क्योंकि ग्रोथ लिमिटेड है और लिक्विडिटी अच्छा है, तो जिसके पास 4-5 साल का व्यू है उसके लिए गुड स्मॉल कैप फंड इज इम्पोर्टेंट. बट एज आई सेड, नेक्स्ट 3-6 months look tough because of all the factors we listed. So maybe with that I'll stop uh, on asset allocation.
Right, right. That was very insightful. I was really hooked on to few thoughts which you have said. Though rupee has just touched its all-time
I
low,
know, I know.
but yes, way forward. That is what I think our investors are looking forward for. What is way forward guidance? And very rightfully said in the way how across the large economies are relatively high on debt, and I should classify everyone in the large economy because you said US, Japan,
Yeah.
UK, for that matter. So they are high on debt, and probably their currency may not appreciate the way it has done in past. So all the investors who are there, first of all, I'd probably say asset allocation wise, what Sir has said is yes, you can look forward for asset as spreading across asset classes. One should not be biased with 1 year performances because that may get covered up. So please don't make your decision just by seeing the recent performance. So one question within this is also very true for equities, and within equities it is large cap, mid cap, and small cap. So there also you want the similar kind of, or you suggest the similar kind of behavior to be adopted, where मतलब इन्वेस्टर को लार्ज कैप, मिड कैप, स्मॉल कैप में एक थोड़ा स्प्रेड करके रखना चाहिए अक्रॉस 3 कैटेगरीज, एंड शुड नॉट गेट स्क्यूड. जैसे अभी ऑफ लेट
Yeah.
स्मॉल कैप बहुत अच्छे रिटर्न्स दे रहे थे, स्मॉल मिड कैप भी अच्छे रिटर्न्स दे रहे थे, लार्ज कैप रिलेटिव टू स्मॉल एंड मिड वर गिविंग लोअर परफॉर्मेंस.
No, no, I agree because I think market timing is difficult. So मेरे ख्याल में इंडिया जहाँ जीडीपी ग्रोथ रिलेटिवली स्ट्रांग है उसमें थोड़ा स्मॉल कैप ज़्यादा रखना चाहिए.
जी.
But again, risk profile, again, I see, I think everyone should use a advisor or some consultant or whatever, because this is a professional thing.
जी
Because सबका risk profile, सबके जो needs हैं, cash flow needs हैं, they are
जी
very very different. But conceptually, I feel that people are underinvested in a small cap because it is a bit volatile, it is a bit risky. But जैसे हमने डेटा में देखा है कि ऑलमोस्ट एवरी मेजर इकोनॉमी में मिड एंड स्मॉल कैप्स है, और इंडिया में क्या है, स्मॉल कैप्स में चॉइस बहुत ज़्यादा होता है। मिड कैप फिर भी वो 150 स्टॉक्स तक सीमित है,
जी
बट स्मॉल कैप्स में चॉइस काफ़ी वाइड है,
the spread of sectors is also
is
huge.
also wide,
Yes.
and
जी
you get chance to create alpha. So a good small cap fund, I think आप historically भी देखेंगे कि good small cap fund 15-20 years में 20-22% CAGR return दिए हैं, which is very very solid return. So I think some allocation is generally a must, I feel.
Yes, yes. So in fact, there was one question. I'll probably take up this one client who is saying small caps are higher in terms of churn and bankruptcy. So I'll just tell to all the investors, when we say small cap, these are 250th to 500th top company in terms of market capitalization in India. Though the name is small cap, but they are not actually very small
हाँ.
companies. They are definitely a good management, and if an investor is not able to identify these opportunities, you can give the funds to professionals like portfolio managers with AMCs or PMSs. They are there to know these companies before they actually step into, और यहाँ निवेश करने से पहले वो उस कंपनी को पूरा जांच लेते हैं। तो ये स्मॉल कैप उतना स्मॉल नाम उतना छोटा नहीं है जितना मतलब नाम है। और जस्ट टू टेल, द स्मॉलेस्ट कंपनी इन मार्केट कैपिटलाइजेशन 500 कंपनीज का 6,000 करोड़ का मार्केट कैप है, और स्मॉल कैप में 251st कंपनी का 31,000 करोड़ का मार्केट कैप है। एंड किसी भी हालत में अच्छी रकम है ये, और अच्छा कैपिटलाइजेशन है। सो इट इज दिस आर नॉट स्मॉल, सो आई विल प्रोबब्ली निगेट। एक और सिर्फ क्वेश्चन है एसेट एलोकेशन से रिलेटेड इन टर्म्स ऑफ, obviously there is one client who is saying this because they are chatting also and online, and they are saying ki US mega caps is an average is not following your asset allocation metrics, but yes, they are limited to 5 to 7 scripts. Any views on that? And also on also on how one should allocate way forward in terms of ratios. If broadly someone has to be one has who has a vision of say 15-20 years down the line, and a decent risk profile, not too very aggressive but not conservative, above say FD, more than FD kind of a returns.
No, so I think incrementally a lot of Indian investors should have some dollar assets, because it is diversification, and a lot of us also may probably spend either for kids education or for travel. In future we may have some dollar liabilities also.
जी
So I think it is good to match the currency of the liability and the saving.
जी
तो मुझे लगता है कि जैसे हमारे मल्टी एसेट फंड में
जी
we have 15% in foreign equities. So I think such a complex and big asset class, a passive is a better way to do it,
जी
because obviously sitting in India, we can't research too many US stocks. Um, Also, I think world indices are better than US indices, but again, why to take concentration risk? So I think MSCI World Index is a good ETF you can use to play that index.
right.
It's a very good, very fragmented index, 1700 stocks in that, but all the big companies globally. So not only are you getting the FANG stocks in US, but let's say there are very good pharma companies in Europe like Novo Nordisk and AstraZeneca. In Japan, you have Sony, obviously. So why not have exposure to all of that as well? So I do think using some passives you can, and people who specifically have feel that in future they may have dollar payments, they can look at diversifying into dollar equities.
Sure, sure. In fact, just to tell our viewers, little digressing here, any client, anybody who wants to participate into US equities directly, we have a global investing platform, which you can find it on our website, and then you can participate. You can buy direct stocks and ETFs, because this is like all 7,000 scripts or more than that's listed on US exchange. So you can go on our website, HDFC Securities, that is also available. So coming back to what we were discussing, in fact, on small caps, I think what you have touched upon. So I'll suggest all our investors, knowing that market, what sir has said, the market will be volatile. Probably you may have to lower down your return expectation. So you can do a staggered investing, that is also available across all small cap funds. And staggered investing has, we have seen the benefit of money being multiplying actually in staggered investing, because one does not see how it start moving after 5 to 7 years, but one has to give those time. That is something which is the patience of an investor, which is tested, because first 2 3 years, SIP's returns looks very nominal in the overall AUM side. And so there are questions on how and which fund in your category, or which you manage, uh, one should look in for. And can you throw some light, because we one of our research recommended fund is Bandhan Core Equity Fund, which
Yeah,
is large and mid cap fund. So can you tell us more about, because I know 1 year performance has been 40 45%, money has doubled in 3 years, or less than 3 years, for all the investors who have invested there. But way forward, how one should look at this fund, and so if you can throw some light on that.
sure. So I think it's a good fund for these times because, see, frankly speaking, long term, very long term, I am a big believer in the small cap fund. But let's face it, I think, as I said, next 3 6 months look tough. So I think core is a good fund where we have about 40 to 50% large caps, which give us stability. But at
Right.
the same time, we have about 50% mid and small cap, which can give us alpha. So the way we run this is we are very benchmark centric. Our objective is to beat the benchmark by 4 to 6% in the long term. Actually, near term we've done better, but again, obviously fund managers also go through cycles, and we're very conscious of risk. So if you see, we are not taking too much macro risk in this. We are there in every sector. वी आर नॉट वेरी स्टाइल ओरिएंटेड ऐसा नहीं है कि हम खाली ग्रोथ लेते हैं या खाली वैल्यू लेते हैं वी हैव अ बिग रिसर्च टीम which we capitalize on because a lot of ideas come. We are very dynamic. We honestly are not buy and hold. So we don't claim that we will own the same stock for 10 years because we think markets have become more dynamic and price efficient. So if you feel that the juice is exhausted in a stock, we will remove that stock and go on to something else. Or if we feel the macro or the theme or the management is not acting as per what our thesis was when we bought, we are happy to admit our mistake and also change it. So we are fairly dynamic. We try to be in the best risk wherever the best risk reward is. We try to be in those stocks, um, and we also make sure that जो बड़े trends है globally or in India, our portfolio is in line with that because sometimes things surprise you. तो आप सोचो 1 साल पहले सब बोले थे कि यूएस रिसेशन में जाएगा. So if you have a very fixated view in these things, I think you will go wrong. So we don't predict macro, but we react to it to make sure that the portfolio is aligned to what is happening on a broader level. So yeah, that is a summary of how we are managing the fund.
To tell our investors in simple terms, uh, the fund which we are talking, Bandhan Core Equity, 5 year performance of an SIP of 10,000 rupees has become 12 lakh 22,000. So somebody who's investing for 5 years, 10,000, that's almost 6 lakhs over a period of 5 years, not a lump sum. That's an XIRR of 28, 29%. But as I said, you have to manage your expectation low. So in fact, there's some question on retirement and fund accumulation. So if you assume 15 years and approximate 15% of returns, and on 15,000 rupees of an SIP will make 1 crore. So that's a simple rule of 15, 15, 15. So if any investor who's like, because the age I'm assuming is 35, 38. So if you are looking forward for 10 crore worth of corpus, you have to instead of 15 crore, 15,000, you put 1.5 lakhs per month, and choose 3 4 good funds, which is part of a research recommend, and your objective will be met. So I addressed actually two questions, because there was one question on this, and in fact there's one question on lump sum investment. And just to tell performance of this fund on the lump sum side, 10 lakhs invested 5 years back is now 28.8 lakhs. But having said that, that's what we are not here to promote. Only performance is one thing you should see. You should spread across into various asset allocation, because there's one question on how much one should, or how many funds one should hold. I can just simply say, if your investment horizon is long, you can choose one or two good funds maximum in a category, which will take care. And mostly, most of the fund managers, especially what we recommend, we are pretty sure of, will not disappoint you drastically. There could be relatively less performance, because it's market which will keep on. Not everybody will be a number one throughout. We haven't seen that for Mr. Sachin Tendulkar also. He has also gone out for ducks sometimes. But yes, eventually your end goal is met, and people in Bombay understand, there could be a traffic just outside your road, but that doesn't mean throughout there'll be traffic throughout the journey. So that's what I mean. You remain invested with a good fund houses and spread your investments across. Uh, and I think there are some questions on the key trends. I think so you have already touched on them, but if you have some specific sector view, sectors where you are bullish upon, and sectors you believe you should, you say, please avoid, if you can break.
Yeah, so just going back to the presentation, we are positive on sectors like pharma, IT, real estate. Basically, जहाँ भी वो white collar workforce है and what they consume, so we like internet names. So we basically focused on urban affluent consumption or companies which are producing medium to high-end products and services. What um, we are not so positive on is very mass-based consumption, or where the penetration is already played out. Because today, um what is happening in India is the K-shaped thing is remaining K-shaped. So if you see globally also that is happening, India also is happening because technology is very dominant. The winner take all पैराडाइम इज हैपनिंग इन लॉट ऑफ इंडस्ट्रीज. तो आप स्मार्टफोन देखेंगे कि खाली एप्पल और सैमसंग का ही पैसा बनता है और किसी का भी पैसा नहीं बनता है. आप ई कॉमर्स देखेंगे तो आई थिंक यूएस में ऑलमोस्ट 40 to 50% ऑफ हाउस होल्ड हैव अमेजन प्राइम अकाउंट. So what is happening is because of technology, there's a lot of concentration in industries, which means that I know it is a social problem, but there is inequality and the K-shaped thing is going on. So I think we are more positive on affluent consumption, more positive on technology-oriented companies, rather than the mass. So if you see it in sectors, basically, what we are not very positive is something like consumer staples, which is very penetrated. We are not very positive on a lot of consumer durable names also. We're not very positive on cement. We're not very positive on auto because these are very penetrated industries. And mass-based consumption. we don't think will pick up very aggressively.
Got it. Got it. One question, sir, which is there, I'll try to address a bit and then I'll need your input also. There's a question on passive and actives. I know this question keeps on coming up, but we are happy to answer that. The investor, whomsoever has asked this, sir, I'll give you a very simple example, pure data. I just told the performance of the fund which we are talking about, Bandhan Core Equity Fund. 5 year performance, 10 lakh has become 28 lakhs. Same money if invested into Nifty, because Nifty from 8,500 is now around 25,000. Sorry, 12,500 is now around 12,000. It has doubled. So it's not meeting the 3 times number which this fund actively being managed has produced. Secondly, if you see Nifty 500 also similar performance. So yes, active has done good in past. What we see, what's our view is, whenever there is a big rally across momentum, across scripts, probably active and passive hug each other in performance, बहुत close रहते हैं performance में. But जब इस तरीके का market आता है, पिछले 2 महीने या 3 महीने का अगर आप market देखेंगे, तो एक्टिव फंड मैनेजमेंट से बहुत सारा रिटर्न्स डाइवर्सिफिकेशन जनरेट हो सकता है, एंड दैट्स वेयर वी एडवोकेट आल्सो कि एक्टिव फंड मैनेजमेंट कम्स इनटू पिक्चर इन द मार्केट विच इज नॉट वेरी यूनिडायरेक्शनल, या एक तरफ नहीं भाग रहा है, और उसमें there are certain opportunities which are working very good within one sector, and there are certain scripts which are not doing very good. Like if I have to give examples, like within banks, there could be some banks which are not doing very good, but there are some small banks which are doing some things right, where the results are becoming very good. And I'll ask now Manish sir if you can just touch some light, because that is one question which is on active and passive, how one should look forward for. And I know why people get very carried away with the cost, but I think cost is net of what you make. So first you make returns, then is the cost and taxes. So that is how one should look in for. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, so I have, while I'm an active fund manager, I have a lot of respect for passive, and I think passive will be big in India as well. They're big in West, obviously, or developed countries. But also, as you correctly pointed out, I think it's important to look at what is the trend return of a market. So let's say if you're in Japan, then the trend return will probably be 3-5%, in which case expense becomes more important. If we assume long-term India's trend return will be same as nominal GDP, so let's say 11-12%. So in 11-12%, saving 1% is probably less important than a market like US or Japan, where the trend return itself, because a mature market,
Right.
is less. So that's the first point. Second point is, I think what will happen, my reading of the situation is passives will grow. Uh, I think there'll be cycles where actors will do better, and then there are cycles where passives will do better. But I never really feel that passives will dominate the flows, because see, passives are ultimately a momentum strategy, because every stock market index is actually a momentum index. क्योंकि स्टॉक मार्केट इंडेक्स का बेसिक लॉजिक है कि कंपनी अच्छा किया है तो उसका वेट बढ़ जाता है, करेक्ट? So by definition, I feel a momentum strategy, if it gets too much money, will fail. क्योंकि obviously, as we said, trees don't grow to the sky. मतलब if a company has already reached 10 lakh market cap,
जी.
for it to grow to 100 lakh is very difficult, versus some company which you can choose, which can go from 10,000 crores to 1 lakh crores. So I think obviously there'll be more cases of companies growing from 10,000 crore to 1 lakh crore rather than 10 lakh company going to 100 lakh. So a good stock picker, to my mind, should be able to beat passive. But as I said, there'll be cycles when the market is narrow, it becomes difficult to beat the market. When the market is broader, it is easier to create alpha. Um, and I think third point is, I think the bigger the index, the passive seems to do better versus active, in the sense that if I take Nifty 50, maybe the alpha creation by active fund manager will be less, because the choice is limited, because only 50 stocks.
Right.
But if I take the small cap index, let's say BSE small cap 400,
Ji.
then I have those 400 and maybe another 200, 300 which are outside the index which qualify as small cap.
Ji.
Then 600 stocks I can, as an active fund manager, create more alpha. So my feeling is also that passive will become bigger in Nifty 50 or Nifty 100. But when you move towards lower and lower market cap, the role of active will be much, much more.
Right, right, right. You summed it very well, sir. I think there are a lot of stock specific questions. So I'll request all the investors. We can't answer these questions as in being this discussion with Mr. Manish Gunwani is CIO of a mutual fund. So any AMC speaker cannot talk about stock specific. If you want to know still about certain stock, please reach to our relationship manager with HDFC Securities, and we keep on regularly engaging through our research, stock research, where you can participate and you can get the answers. Because this forum, we are talking about a larger trend. Uh, Broadly, sir, we have covered most of it. And I think one last question is on again, the broader asset allocation in terms of how one should diversify between, in say, if there are four asset classes, now the fifth one is emerging, Bitcoin, but though we are not touching it. So, so say Indian equities, global equities, then debt, and then gold, or gold and silver club together, a bullion, say. So among these four, what should be the right spread? For anyone who has a vision of 15, 20 years. And
So clearly, if you have a very wide time frame, then um, the the simple logic is if you assume equities follow nominal GDP, India equity should be the highest return
no,
asset class. Let's say um, uh, Nifty 100 may do 11, 12%, the broader market may do 13, 15%. But yes, uh, we need to be disciplined. So as I said, equities and gold are a good combination. I would probably say that Indian equities at 45, 50, international equities at 10, 20, gold at 10, 20, and a maybe minimal amount in fixed income. That because the time horizon is enough. I mean, if your
definitely.
time
Yes.
horizon is 3 years, then maybe fixed income can be higher. But if you have 15, 20 years, I would think this is a good combination to have.
Done, sir. Thank you, and thanks a lot. I think there's one question which is more on asset, how the wealth can be created. What should I invest per month to make for next 10 years to make 25 crores? I'm happy to see such questions coming up because I'm
Yeah, because
very used
you
to
know,
get
well,
these kind of a questions. So, sir, it's very simple maths. If you are starting with zero as a starting point, and within 10 years you want to accumulate 25 crores, uh, probably somewhat the formula will be something around 30,000 into 25. So around 8 lakhs, sir, you have to do approximately as an SIP to reach to that number. If I am not wrong, you can do the math. Well, these calculators are also available on our website, because I'm just doing randomly out here.
hmm.
8 to 10 lakh rupees SIPs can definitely take you to the 25 crore magical number, and which all asset classes. So since we are asking for staggered investment, I think the more volatile an asset class is, staggered investment really helps in those asset classes. So you can choose what sir has said, anyways, Indian equities. And I think SIP probably I may not suggest for fixed income, but yes, you can still choose a longer dated duration funds. So again, 45, 50% Indian, four, five good funds of Indian equities. You can choose Bandhan one fund, and they have another list of funds which are recommended funds are also available on our website and on the app. Then US fund 10 to 15%, gold around definitely 10 to 15%, and then fixed income. So that's it. And thank you, sir, for taking out your time and coming in. And thank you all the investors for taking out time and come out and have this engaging session. Thanks a ton.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.